Right, hi again. I'm just going to continue with where I left off with the last video concerning free will. So I was just talking about why somebody might want to not believe in free will, might want to believe in determinism, or that everything's random, or some other explanation for how we make decisions, but they're not really ours. So we don't really have free will, we don't really have responsibility. So there could be various reasons for that. One is something that a teacher or philosopher I know of called T.L. Scott mentioned recently, and that's called cognitive closure. There's a great desire in the human psychology for certainty on subjects, closure, so that we can let it go. We can say, okay, I've decided that issue, I know what I think, I'm not really going to think about it anymore, I don't really have to consider that anymore. And we desire this because it gives us a sense of completeness and a sense that we can let that subject go and we can get on with other things. And we're willing to sacrifice a certain amount of doubt we might have about a position for that cognitive closure, for the benefits it gives us. Another reason why someone might not want to believe in free will is because if you don't believe in free will, then you don't really have to take responsibility for your life and for what you do. And again, that could feel like quite a burden to somebody, especially someone who's quite intellectual and who's got a good idea of how much they affect other people, and how much responsibility they have. Particularly, let's say, a professor in a university. You know, I mean, they're in a position of great influence and power often, and it must be quite reassuring if they can think to themselves, well, you know, whatever I do, it's not really down to me, it's my upbringing and my genes and, you know, the way I was taught. So yeah, I don't have to worry too much. Okay, so there's a couple of reasons why people might want to disbelieve in free will in general, and particularly those in positions of influence and power, and even particularly philosophy professors. Now also, philosophy professors tend to promote new philosophers who they agree with. We generally are like that, aren't we? All of us. We rarely can see the good side of those who disagree with us. You know, it's much easier for us to get on with, and see the potential and benefit in those who at least agree with us in general, or very much largely agree with us. And so there's a kind of self-perpetuating cycle going on in academia where the next generation of professors tend to have been pretty much in line with the previous generation. There is some movement over time, but this tends to restrict the movement, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But, you know, in some areas it seems to be a bit pathological, to be fair, and that maybe philosophy has become, academic philosophy as an institution has become a bit moribund because of this. And so, you know, we get more and more people with these buying into these same arguments and really they don't hold much water, I think. So these are some explanations for why these arguments are quite prevalent and believed. And then of course for the general public, or those who haven't really thought about it too much, or maybe other academics but in other disciplines, they might well accept what philosophers are saying, not because they've thought about it and think, yeah, that makes sense so much, but because, they're authority figures often, very great authority figures sometimes, almost worshipped. So it's quite easy for someone who hasn't really thought about it too much, hasn't really gone into the issues, to just say, well, yeah, it makes sense, fine, I'll go with that. They know what they're talking about, they're a very successful philosopher, I'll go with that. But I think you'll find that if you really do put the effort in and think about it, you will see that these arguments are not great, not even good. And now I'm sure that clever minds can come up with some answers to the points I've made, and I look forward to anyone who wants to put forward counter arguments to what I've said. I welcome that, and that'd be very interesting for me. So what I'd like to go into now is how it might work, how free will might work on a psychological level, so on a more biological or systems level. So what we've got is the basic hardware, and then on top of that you've got the software, and so that's what I'll be talking about now. And this is the software of the mind, the software of the brain. And obviously the computer analogy for human beings can go too far, and as I've said before, we've got within us potential for very accurate computing or processing of information, if you prefer, rather than using the word computing. And we also have potential for very inaccurate or random outputs. And as I said before, by combining these, the power of both of these, I think this is how we achieve the amazing ability to create new solutions, sort through those solutions for the best ones, and even have free will. So how that technically might work is what I've called the SGM, the second guess module. And basically this is the idea that certain systems in the brain, or the whole brain more or less, is involved in this process of generating potential solutions. So in general life, we don't really have to think too much about a lot of things that we do. If I'm going to make my bed, I don't really have to think about it too much. I've done it hundreds of times. I just do it the same as I did every other time. If I want to put my right foot in front of my left, it happens almost automatically. Breathing, we can become conscious of these things, and that can be a good exercise, of course. But in general, a lot of this stuff is happening without what we would call higher order mental processes, like free will or consciousness, high level consciousness. But if we come across a situation where it is a bit novel and maybe we don't know exactly what to do, then that is when free will really applies. When we have a situation, it's probably going to be high value, in that it's going to lead to something we want, or potentially it's going to give us the opportunity to avoid something we don't want, then that's high value, and then the SGM kicks in. So, and what it does is it starts generating potential solutions, potential decisions, and then consciousness is called in to examine these decisions and choose between them. Yeah. And basically consciousness ranges over the decisions, the solutions that the SGM puts forward. And of course some of these solutions are pretty random because they've been generated deep in the brain in very small structures where real random stuff can pop up. And so consciousness will range over that, and sometimes it will see a solution that's pretty clear, and oh wow, that's a good one. And maybe just by chance it's come up somehow, and yeah, great, let's do that, wow. And you know that feeling, we all know it. But then other times it's more hard, and so the SGM keeps generating solutions, and then perhaps a solution might look quite good, and then the consciousness will focus in on that, and the SGM will start to expand that and sort of look at the consequences, look at the potential benefits, and obviously as this is expanded, and as the detail of what's behind these potential solutions is expanded, the SGM will recruit in more and more brain power, more and more brain systems to provide as much information as possible to the consciousness, to the attention, which is what consciousness is. And eventually, normally we come to some kind of decision. So that's basically how free will would actually potentially work in the brain. That solutions are provided, and how they relate to goals, both positive goals and negative goals, things we want to avoid. And consciousness, by just the very act of ranging over those potential solutions, promotes the SGM into recruiting more and more brain power, and more random solution generation potentially, to explore possible solutions, possible directions, and offer more and more options to the brain and to the consciousness, until one or more of these solutions are chosen. And this all seems perfectly possible in principle, that we don't need to, that consciousness in its own way can make decisions. So in my next video, I'll probably be looking at reality and what it actually is, particularly from a visual point of view, such as colours and objects that we see, and they're all coloured. So I hope you like this video. Do a thumbs up if you do, and hope to see you back here another time. Thanks. Bye.